On the morning of September 17, 1944, at 6:15, Captain George Jones crouched behind a jagged coral outcrop along the beaches of Paleleu, surveying the carnage with a combination of dread and tactical calculation. His Marines, seasoned by prior campaigns but still mortal, were falling one by one to an unseen enemy hidden high in the jungle canopy above, each death punctuated by the dry crack of the Arisaka Type 97 rifle. At 31, Jones was a veteran of 12 island assaults, yet nothing in his experience had prepared him for the psychological and tactical nightmare unfolding before him. Japanese snipers, bound by ropes and camouflaged into the very branches that sustained them, had transformed every palm tree into a fortress and every branch into a deadly firing platform, turning the jungle into a three-dimensional battlefield that defied every principle the Marine Corps had drilled into its infantry. In the first 48 hours of the landing, Sergeant Major Hiroshi Tanaka's elite sniper teams had claimed 23 Marine lives with surgical precision, all without a single confirmed casualty in return. Jones observed through his field glasses as Lance Corporal Martinez, moving between two palms, dropped silently, another victim of invisible fire from a sniper who seemed to materialize from nowhere and vanish into the foliage, leaving the Marines pinned, scanning endlessly for muzzle flashes that never repeated from the same spot. The traditional Marine tactics, advancing under suppressive fire, coordinated squad maneuvers, and aggressive assault, were rendered useless against an enemy perched 40 feet above the ground, who could strike and melt away without warning. It was Lieutenant Joseph Walker who first suggested an unorthodox solution that morning: to employ the 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft guns still mounted on the landing craft offshore, weapons trained on the skies for Japanese aircraft that had failed to appear but whose explosive shells could rain destruction upon the jungle canopy where the snipers concealed themselves. This radical approach upended conventional doctrine, replacing precision marksmanship with overwhelming firepower, turning the Marines' problem, the invulnerability of snipers in elevated positions, into a solvable tactical equation. Captain Jones realized that the Marines were dying not because of inferior skill, but because they were fighting by rules that the enemy had abandoned. Their solution required abandoning those rules as well. The Paleleu beaches, lit by the rising sun, had become a killing field where the first wave of Marines, landing at 8 o'clock on September 15th, had stalled 300 yards inland, pinned not by concrete bunkers or machine gun nests, but by the very trees themselves. Tanaka had transformed the jungle canopy into an integrated system of elevated positions, binding his snipers to branches with hemp rope and camouflaging them with living foliage so completely that even the most vigilant rifleman could not discern their location. The Type 97 rifles, effective at 400 meters, gained devastating reach from 40-foot heights, and each sniper carried only 20 rounds, each intended to kill a Marine. The psychological effect on Jones's men was immediate and crushing. Fear became constant, scanning overhead became ritualized, and hesitation replaced aggression. Traditional tactics failed because the Marines could not engage an enemy that existed only for the split second it took to fire a bullet, and return fire risked hitting empty air or harming comrades below. Tanaka had studied previous American campaigns and intentionally disrupted the assumption of mutual support between riflemen, creating a battlefield where every tree could host a sniper capable of striking anywhere within their sector. Meanwhile, the elevation advantage allowed the Japanese to eliminate the guesswork of range estimation, while American bullets, fired nearly straight up through dense layers of vegetation, lost accuracy and power. The battlefield was inverted. The enemy dominated the high ground, controlled the lines of sight, and dictated the pace of engagement, while the Marines struggled against invisible foes who had rewritten the rules of warfare. Lieutenant Walker, positioned near the waterline to observe without risking further casualties, calculated that conventional weapons were ineffective against elevated snipers and recognized the latent potential in the offshore Bofors 40mm autocannons. Originally designed to protect landing craft and invasion fleets from aircraft, these guns could fire high explosive shells at 120 rounds per minute, each shell capable of obliterating a 10-meter radius, enough to neutralize the jungle canopy itself and any hidden sniper within. The concept violated everything Marines had learned about precision and fire discipline. Instead of matching sniper accuracy with superior marksmanship, they would overwhelm their adversaries with sheer destructive force. Jones grasped the significance immediately. The Marines could not fight the snipers on their own terms, but they could change the battlefield itself. Mounted on 3 landing craft positioned offshore, each gun operated by a 4-man crew, the Bofors were trained to track targets moving at hundreds of meters per second in the sky, yet with slight modifications. The same principles could be applied to the static yet invisible threats in the jungle. Forward observers ashore would call in suspected sniper positions via radio, directing gunners to elevate, traverse, and fire short bursts, saturating areas of concealment with high explosive fragmentation, achieving in seconds what conventional infantry had failed to accomplish in days. The first live test occurred on September 18 at 14:30, when Private First Class Rodriguez was shot while retrieving supplies 40 meters inland. The sniper had perched in a 60-foot breadfruit tree, thick with canopy, perfectly concealed. Lieutenant Walker immediately radioed the coordinates to Sergeant John Miller aboard LCM-7, whose Bofors gun, trained on the tree, unleashed a 3-round high-explosive barrage. The first shell detonated 18 feet above ground, scattering splinters and metal fragments. The second shredded the upper branches. The third obliterated the sniper, destroying not just the man but his entire position and environment. The effect was immediate and profound. Where Japanese snipers had been invisible and invulnerable, they now faced zones of total destruction extending 15 meters in every direction, nullifying their camouflage and killing power. Marines, previously immobilized by fear and uncertainty, began advancing, encouraged by the knowledge that they now had reliable fire support capable of neutralizing the elevated threat. The Japanese, in contrast, witnessed the destruction of their carefully orchestrated sniper network and understood that their entire system of elevated, mobile marksmen had been rendered obsolete by the American capacity for rapid, high-explosive engagement. Over the course of the afternoon, the Bofors systematically targeted and eliminated 47 suspected sniper positions, expending just 230 rounds of mixed ammunition. The remaining Japanese snipers, forced to relocate to ground-level positions or fall back to secondary defensive lines, lost the advantage of elevation, mobility, and concealment. Sergeant Major Tanaka, observing from a fortified cave on the central ridge, faced a catastrophic collapse of his defensive doctrine. Of the 63 elite snipers deployed, only 17 reported to secondary rally points, many wounded, none capable of operating as autonomous, effective units. The psychological impact extended beyond immediate losses. The Japanese snipers, previously elite operators who had terrorized Marines for months, now faced the realization that their specialized training and battlefield experience could not counter the overwhelming destructive power of the Americans' improvised artillery. Tactical adaptation had failed. Technology and flexible application of firepower had won. The success of the Bofors guns at Paleleu did not merely solve the immediate tactical problem. It revolutionized Marine Corps doctrine, demonstrating the effectiveness of high-explosive, area-denial fire against concealed and elevated enemies and highlighting the value of adapting existing weapons to new problems. Forward observers coordinated multiple fire missions, landing craft were positioned for overlapping fields of fire, and gun crews refined procedures for ground support operations. Lieutenant Walker's comprehensive analysis reached Marine Corps headquarters within weeks, informing training at Quantico, while Captain Jones received promotion and contributed to standardized doctrine for naval gunfire support. The psychological benefits extended throughout the Pacific theater. Marines, previously resigned to high casualties from snipers, now understood that technology and innovation could neutralize even the most sophisticated enemy tactics. Japanese defensive planning, meanwhile, shifted to reliance on underground fortifications and cave systems, abandoning elevated sniper networks and fundamentally altering the nature of island defense. Engineers developed dual-role anti-aircraft/ground support variants, optical improvements, and modified mounts, ensuring that future operations could replicate the success of Paleleu. The integration of technical expertise with tactical innovation at Paleleu became a model for American combat operations, influencing doctrine, training, and equipment procurement across subsequent campaigns. By systematically neutralizing sniper networks, the Marines reduced casualties, restored momentum to amphibious assaults, and demonstrated the transformative effect of combining creativity, technological adaptation, and overwhelming firepower. The events at Paleleu encapsulated the essence of American military problem-solving in the Pacific. When the battlefield rules change, it is not the soldier but the strategic thinker, the innovator, and the adaptable commander who determines victory. Captain Jones's decisive actions, Lieutenant Walker's technical insight, and Sergeant Miller's mastery of weapon systems collectively reshaped infantry operations and artillery employment, leaving a legacy that extended far beyond a single beachhead. In less than 72 hours, the Marines had rewritten the conditions of combat, proving that technological ingenuity, applied rapidly and decisively, could negate even the most cunning and deadly defensive tactics. Peace was achieved not through static fortifications or heroic sacrifice alone, but through innovation that rendered previously insurmountable obstacles irrelevant, setting the stage for future operations across the Pacific theater and influencing military doctrine for decades to come.